Yeah, the American-made coins for Mexico. Well, the earliest dated coin is this 1 peso, but even though it's dated 1898, these are actually struck in 1949. You can tell from a peso actually struck by seeing the M and then the little O. If it was struck originally in those times, the O would not be protruding above the top of the M. That's the easiest way. You can also go by counting the number of denticles on each side, but this raised O is probably the greatest and clearest demarcation that tells you this is the restrike that the U.S. Mint made a couple million of, and Mexico made a whole bunch, many more millions. It's not known whether any of the American struck ones in San Francisco have actually survived, or if they would even have had any different die than the ones in Mexico. So this is probably actually really made, and was certainly made in Mexico, but it'll have to stand in for the American coin. These were minted actually not for use in Mexico, but in China. Again, along with the other Chinese large silver dollars, the attempt was to support the government there against the communists, but that failed, and as that failed, a lot of these ended up being, well, as far as we know, all the ones made in San Francisco were melted down. If any of them hadn't been, there'd be probably no way to know except if it had a pedigree. Well, when we first started making coins for Mexico proper, it was 1906. We made this 50 centavo. San Francisco, and one like it is made in Mexico. There are some variations in the digit on the 6 or the 9 that may have something to do with which mint it's made at, but as I don't know which would be which, I'm just going to have to leave it at that. And also in 1906, we made some gold 5 and 10 pesos. Here's the 5 pesos. It's hard to find a really good image of that. Estados Unidos Mexicanos. And then again, we made a 10 or 10 pesos. And my own subjective guesswork is that this one probably might be struck in the U.S. Just the striking quality has that look. The other one looks more like probably one made in Mexico, but as I say, that is guesswork on my part. Now for 1907, it's a little bit more clear, because the 1907, the 7 digit can either be slightly curved on the part going down or straight. The dies with it going down straight were kept in Mexico. The ones with it slightly curved were sent to the U.S. So that means this one was made in the U.S., which in this particular coin is unique in being made at the New Orleans Mint just a couple of years before they would shut down for good. But at least the New Orleans did get to do this one single generation of coins that were for foreign use. In the original Alts and Barton, it was not known if there'd be any way to tell whether one of these was made in Mexico or not. That's been discovered since then. Same goes for the 50 cent. It too has a curved 7 if made in the U.S. and a straight 7 if made in Mexico. But in this case, of course, the American-made ones are struck at Denver and San Francisco. No other mint mark, just the M there you see under the 50 on top of the centavos to indicate the die came from Mexico, which is also on this one and all these others. Now, Mexico went through some political instability for a while, and a private contractor mint, the Denver Novelty Works, it's believed, according to the original Alts and Barton, and I have no further update, made the state of Durango a 1 and 5 centavos. The 1 is aluminum, the 5 is brass. As you can see, these are 2 rather splendid specimens of these. So, dated 1914. So Mexico was really in the throes of some tough times at that time. Finally, in 1935, things have kind of recoalesced into a real nation again. And once again, the 50 centavos is made at Philadelphia, Denver, San Francisco, and also Mexico City. And once again, they always have that little M there as the mint mark from where the die came from, 1935. This probably could be a Mexican striking, though the odds are about 6 out of 7 it wouldn't be, so who's to say? Estados Unidos. Doesn't seem to be much of anything clearly unique that we can identify as this is American. Now, after Alts and Barton, we didn't actually make coins, but we made blanks. So this is the Denver Mint. The Denver Mint made blanks, and so Mexico took those blanks, and they made this 50-cent for that, and they made this peso for that. And these blanks are almost certainly made from the blanks provided by the United States. So, moving over, Netherlands is our other country. Now, there's not very much here that we did for the homeland. And as you can see, the coins look very similar to those made for Curacao and Suriname. This rather interesting toned specimen. Somewhat hard to come by. If you look real close, you might be able to make out the acorn there under the 1/9 of 1943. Let's see if we can pull this in and get it showing. Wow. Yeah, it's a little bit different. There's a little tiny thing sticking out of the top that wouldn't be found on, for example, the equivalent 10-cent for the colonies, where it just has, it looks like a little T or palm tree is what it actually is. They're both struck at the P Mint. You can see the Philadelphia Mint. And the fronts look exactly the same, other than toning, of course. So there was that. And in 1943, the 43s seem to be much harder to find. Now here you can see the acorn much more clearly. See, it really is an acorn with a little bit of a stem sticking out the top. Most of them, however, 1944. This is about the only one that's really common. Again, you can see the acorn with a little stem sticking out. Denver made some. They're extremely rare, thousands of dollars a piece. I don't have one of those, obviously. Again, it almost looks kind of blocky, but that's still obviously an acorn. San Francisco, somewhat difficult to come by, but not too bad. And the 25-cent, again, the P Mint is actually pretty common. Now you can see the acorn with a little stem on it pretty easily here. And then 1944, the Guilder. And again, just try to look past, there we go. See the little acorn again, 1944 P, 1 Guilder. Now, there's a variety of this where these words come down under the neck, kind of similar to how they would in the smaller denomination coins. That's a somewhat rare variety. The other thing that's rare and that I don't have are 1945 P 25 cent, 10 cent, 25 cent, and Guilder, all of which are pretty rare. So that's Netherlands. One small bit of housekeeping. And the last one, when we talked about Liberia, I neglected to mention that a private mint made this, the very first coin made in the United States for foreign use, was this Liberian cent dated 1833. These were given to the Negroes who had been purchased to be redeemed and sent back to repatriated back in Africa. And these were like their change. And you can actually see the American Colonization Society, 1 cent, founded AD 1816, to commemorate the group that tried to free some slaves in this manner. And that's how Liberia got its start. So it's a really fascinating piece of history. That's what I have here.